Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Techno Files interview sessions, this time with Taste Savant. I'm here with Shelby. I'm not going to butcher your last name, but I'm not even going to try.
Yes, Shelby Byerly. It's a hard one. A lot of vowels.
Would not have gotten on that one. So we'll just call you Shelby because I'm not going to mess up your last name.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about what Taste Savant is.
So Taste Savant is a restaurant discovery app and site. We aggregate critic reviews, blogger reviews, your friends' reviews of just the best restaurants. So we have an in-house process where we decide what those restaurants are. And we're in New York, Chicago, LA, and Boston.
Any plans for expansion anywhere else?
Yes, we should be in San Francisco next by the end of the year at least, and then we have some international plans as well.
What about Philadelphia?
It's certainly on the radar. We'd like to do 4 by the end of the year, so the following 3 after San Francisco are kind of up for grabs, and Philly is definitely in there. It's a great place.
Yes, it is, because I'm from there.
No bias, but yeah, no, it's always on the top notch. So it's certainly that next tier of places we'd like to go.
Great. So how did Taste Savant come about?
So Sonia, who's our CEO and founder, she had been in London with her husband, where she was helping out with another startup called Goo Chocolates, and they moved back to New York, and it was kind of her first free Friday, and it was her chance to plan date night. And after 2 hours of she's got one tab with Open Table and where can she get a reservation, and she's got New York Magazine open, and then she's got Pete Wells with the Times open, and it was 2-3 hours later, and she just said to herself, this should be easier. So that's really where the idea popped for her, and obviously we've come a long way. That was about 3 years ago now.
Wow, so you come from 3 years just of an idea to a full-fledged website and an app. Is the app available on iPads, iTunes, all that, and Android?
We have an iPhone app that you can use on an iPad. We do not have Android yet. It's in the works and next phase. I know.
We're catching a lot of next phase things.
Yes, we are. We don't have any outside investments. So whereas people assume a lot of things with startups and big checks from VCs, we operate a little bit differently because we are bootstrapping.
Oh, bootstrapping. That's a good one. I like that. Any plans on going on Shark Tank?
No, that's not really in the cards for us. I think it's great for certain companies that are trying to get just massive, big-time exposure, which would be great for us too. But I think because we are kind of targeting this really small market that has much bigger arms and a wider reach than possible, but we're really targeting this particular type of person.
Cool. Yeah. So you say you take users' reviews and various other things. How do you like do you vet any of them to be in like biasness, or what's the process of making sure you're not just getting some guy going, I love this place just because I'm the owner?
Yep. So we actually vet every user-generated review on our site. That's something that we decided was important from the beginning. There's other companies like Yelp, which get a lot of complaints about that. So from the very start, we decided that was going to be integral and important to our business, just to make sure that we are a trusted source, that our reviews are vetted.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yes, because Yelp does get a lot of problems.
Yes.
So when people, if they go to the website, what will they expect to find?
So it's really probably the first positive thing anyone says about the website is when you get there, it's just good looking. So it's clean and it's pretty even. Sonia really was the genius behind all of that. But what your main focus is just that search widget. So right front and center, you search by
I found it.
neighborhood, price, occasion. It's just simplified.
So let's get that down. So now I'm looking at the website. Wow, yeah, it is really nice.
Part of that is because we haven't sold the ad sharks yet.
Yeah.
Down the line, it's certainly a possibility, but yes, it's clean and streamlined, and you get exactly what you want right there, front and center.
Wow, that is really, really nice. So you can base upon the neighborhood you're in, what kind of food you'd like, and even
Hmm.
the price.
Hmm.
Wow. And
And
occasion. Ooh.
yeah, and there's some unique things that we do on occasions too that I personally happen to love. Hipster scene is fun,
Yes.
certainly
Good.
of the moment. BYOB, always old school, but there's always struggles to find those. Date night, new on the scene is our restaurants that are less than 6 months on the site. So there's a lot of ways to really get what you're looking for.
Parents in town.
Yeah.
What's Eater 38?
So the eater.com is a really amazing resource for industry people, and then I'll say these more elevated, more eager, food obsessed types. So since their start, they've really been aggregating kind of in the know industry news, openings, closings, industry gossip even. So really fun things. But from the early stages, they always had an Eater 38, which is the most, important prized restaurants in each city that they're in. And that's curated within Eater's editorial teams. So it's a great short list of kind of the best of the best. And that's not just the most expensive restaurants. You'll find some cheap eats on there too. So that's their first attempt at critical approach. More recently, in the past few months now, Eater is doing traditional restaurant reviews. So we've started to include those as well.
Hey, look at that. It works. I was trying to throw it
Yay!
up, throw at it, and
It's always that kind of heart-stopping moment, like, oh no.
so then it even has some of the outstanding dishes as well, which is really nice because then
Yeah.
if you've never been there before, you're like, well, I kind of like this food and this stuff, and if they actually say, hey, the best gnocchi or the French toast, that's really cool.
Right. That's probably the feature I use the most now that we're on an app. I'll pull it up when I'm at a restaurant, and I am in Chicago actually. So Phil Vitale is our critic from the Tribune here, and I'll go see and say, what did Phil like at Boca, and make sure to order those dishes. So that's my personal favorite feature.
Ah, so how does a restaurant get on the list? Does it just amount of how many people sign in, or do a review, or do they submit a link? Like, how do you get on the list?
We are always open to suggestions. So if you search for a restaurant and it's not on the site, you're actually prompted to email us and suggest a restaurant. Um, but the most traditional way that we add a restaurant is through those critical reviews. So those are the bread and butter of what we're doing and what we're curating and aggregating. So in the simplest form, if it has two critical reviews and mostly positive critical reviews, then it will go on the site in each city.
Ah, all right.
There's certainly exceptions to that rule. I always like to talk about Pequod's Pizza, which is a local favorite here in Chicago. And certainly it's not getting critical reviews, but it is by far a local favorite. And then you'll see it kind of on all those Food Network shows as well.
Ah. So I like how the Gordon Ramsay at the London critics gave it a 6, but the users like, no, it's a perfect 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and I think that really shows how we're really unique because we're providing both angles. So you can see that, and it's really simplified and streamlined.
Wow.
So you like it?
Yeah, I mean it looks fantastic. It's very smooth. It's very
Mhm.
easy to do. I mean, you have so many options to choose from. I mean, if you look over here with the cuisine, look at all the cuisine you could pick. That's just ridiculous. I
Yep.
picked them all just to kind of see what I can get. But look, you have just a noodle shop. I like noodles.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. Just
That's
have,
and that'll be expanded too. That's part of the additions and the technology that we need to update as we go internationally. There should be a lot of updates with cuisines in particular.
ooh.
Hmm.
It's like what's on the future for cuisines and various other things.
So it's kind of funny because you'd think New York would cover all of that, but now since we've expanded to LA, they have a lot more particulars under the Mexican cuisine, or even healthier cuisines has been huge for LA. So whereas there's, at least in Chicago, only a handful of vegan restaurants. In New York, more, but still limited. There's an entire, population of vegan restaurants in LA. So things that, potential additions in the near future is something like that.
I would almost believe it's sacrilegious to be a vegan in Chicago.
It's tough. There's a couple restaurants where you can go, but I would imagine that you're mostly, antisocial and eating indoors.
Yes, bringing a vegan date is always a cheap way. Is oh, we have a steak and her, they'll just
Yes, I imagine it's very difficult to be here and be a vegan, but I'm sure doable.
no, it's not. There's no become a vegan in Chicago. They run you out of town.
Yeah. Well, I believe it or not, I do have a few friends, and there's a couple restaurants here. There's a woman, Karen Calabrese, who has 5 restaurants. She's kind of been on the vegan forefront for years. So there are surprising possibilities, and those are some restaurants too that we like to include on the list because there is a market for them.
And when you said that a restaurant needs at least 2 critical reviews,
Yep.
is that from like a newspaper or a reputable
Yes.
reviewer? Like, what are the critical reviews requirements?
So before we launch a city, we deem the kind of premier critics that we're interested in including. So in New York, it's obvious. It's the New York Times, New York Magazine, the New Yorker, Eater, Tasting Table. So it's really this. It's the short list, the list that people in this market are reading about. So when I say that it needs 2 critics, that's the easy way to add a restaurant, and then there's a whole kind of other half of, subjective adding. So maybe it's 1 critical review and then 1 user suggestion, or maybe it's 2 or 3 user suggestions have now come in for a restaurant. What's most important for us in that curation process is having someone on the ground who knows what they're talking about. We firmly believe that you can't really go into a city in what we're trying to do without somebody on the ground with a good understanding of the restaurant scene and that kind of culture surrounding it.
So it's not just all willy-nilly like, he liked it, we'll put it on there, go for it.
Right. We're kind of a little bit in this luxury brand, so we take that very seriously. So the list of restaurants that we include really plays into that.
So you're going to be going international. What are you looking for when you go international that you don't find here in America?
As far as technical hiccups or new restaurants.
For new restaurants.
Sure. Like London has this amazing Indian restaurant scene, so that'll be huge. In Paris, it's not just sauces and French and fine dining. There's new kind of hot things going on in Europe that maybe we haven't caught on to. Maybe it's old news for us. It's probably one of my favorite things about that initial market research phase. It's like the ramen phase is kind of coming to an end in New York, and what's next? It's interesting to see how that compares to Europe.
Yeah, I don't get the whole ramen thing. That's just what college guys and people in the military eat. I don't see that as fine dining.
You know what? It is essential if you live in Brooklyn, from what I understand.
Like, how does the ramen noodle, like, someone sits there goes, we'll take this 12-cent packet of freeze-dried noodles and over sodium tasting stuff, and we'll make it fine dining.
I would say whoever was one of the first players in that was probably a business genius, but I don't know.
Ugh, ramen bars. It's just ridiculous. Now, have you submitted any reviews for any restaurants you've gone to?
Yes, I'm an active user. I am our target market. So this isn't a position or startup that I fell into. Food's been a passion of mine since growing up outside Chicago. My parents instilled food and the importance of sitting together at dinner every night. My mom was an amazing cook, so we grew up with cassoulet and all these wonderful cuisines and different food to eat at night. And then I went to school in New Orleans, which is probably where my interest became an obsession and part of my life and part of who I am. So
that's one way to get a taste of everything down there in New Orleans.
yes, yeah. So something, I went into my freshman year being kind of a picky eater, actually. I didn't like mushrooms or, kind of weird, little things that are kind of part of growing up. And then I just decided that I've got to embrace this. Now is the time. I'm in one of the best cities in the U.S. I can't not, try everything that I can.
Oh Lord, all right, fix some little fade in and out.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Wait. Oh, it's good now.
wait.
Perfect. Yeah. Always love it when your computer sits there and goes, "Oh, we'll change the camera on you." And you're like, "Oh, goody, yay!" Uh, how would trying to think of like a good file because like it's all food based and it's easy to do. I mean, the website is very easy to go through. It's
Mhm.
like I said, it's very clean, very precise. You know, it has the many different options with the date night and various other things. So you could be a guy getting ready for a date, just kind of going, all right, well, we're going to be here, so I want to get something for a good date night, do all this, and you try to be a little picky about the food you pick because you don't want to get the bad food, the bad breath food.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great example. If you're, trying to impress a date, it's a great site or app to go to because you do have a little bit more trust there. You vetted it yourself now because you've seen that the critics like it, or maybe the critics didn't like it, but all these users said it was amazing for this reason or that reason. So I think that's a great use for it. And yeah, you have a little bit more comfort when you're dining out. We are a information-soaked generation and population now, so we want to know everything. And with Taste Savant, you can know just about everything you need to know before dining at a restaurant, and know that you're going to spend your money wisely. So as much as we target someone with a disposable income, this type of user wants to know that they're also spending their dollars in the right way and they want to do it efficiently.
Yeah, it really takes away the issue of what do we have for dinner.
Right, which, people are dining out more and more. So this is not, kind of a fad. I think this is an evolving thing in our world and in the U.S. in particular, and hopefully in Europe when we go there.
No, if they see it and they can easily just go through the user interface, I mean, they'll take off over there too because
Yeah.
there's so many food snobs over there, especially in London when people just, they don't want fish and chips all day long. They'd rather have something else. You go to Italy and Paris, Paris especially, they're very food snobbish. But it
Right.
also helps people going on there just to be a tourist by finding some of the local restaurants that aren't too well established. They can find like a little little side restaurant that they can sit there and sit down, have a good meal, and not feel like it's a big corporate kind of thing.
Yeah, travel's been huge for us. It's not initially what we were going after, but we were in, the Delta magazine a couple of weeks ago, and we'll be in American next month. So traveling and Taste Savant certainly go hand in hand. One of the features too I love that we do is concierge service. So if you tweet at us, put on our Facebook page, you can even really, cut right down to it. You don't even need to search if you don't have 5 minutes. So say, hey, Taste Savant, I'm going to dinner in Boston, and I need it's a table for 4, and I'm going with my girlfriend's new parents. I'm meeting them for the first time. You can make it so easy for you to find the right place to be at, and we'll do that for you, and we'll get back to you within hours, potentially within that day, certainly.
Concierge service. Look at that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes. So we are making life easier, I think, and more fun.
Now, have you ever gone to one of the restaurants that a user reviewed, said it was great, you went there and you're like, not so much?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things about this.
It's tell the user they're wrong.
Yeah, it's a conversation. It's ongoing, and I think what's interesting about what we do is it's not so permanent. It's an ongoing conversation. On this visit, I had this experience, and then you go back again in a month, and you can update your review. So, that editing is really truthful to a restaurant experience. You can have a lot of times, especially for a new restaurant, very different experiences. So, it's important to be able to edit your review, right? Not just submit a second.
Fair enough. Do users who I don't know what that
Sorry.
meant.
Phone. Sorry.
I was like, who? But no, users that submit a lot of reviews, do their reviews get more attention than other reviews, or is everybody just even?
So when you first join the site, it has suggested users. So here's really active users, and the most active users will actually be at the forefront of that list. You're also prompted, so we have the Facebook connection. So if you can log in through your Facebook, and then you can see which of your friends are on the site. So that's kind of that third tab. You see the critics say, users say, and then your friends say. So that's Facebook driven and people you're connected to.
Oh, okay. So that does help.
Because some people don't, want to know what the critics are saying, and they don't want to know what people they don't know are saying. They only want to know what their circle of friends are saying. So it's one way to use the site and a streamlined way to do that.
So if you have a group of foodie friends, this will be the best thing for them because they can all just kvetch about how good the food is or how bad the food is. Exactly.
There's a couple of my friends, off the internet and on the internet, that are on there, and I'll go and look at their profiles and look at their reviews sometimes. I'll pull them up at a restaurant like, oh, what did Anne say about this place? I forget. I think she liked this dish. Oh, no, it was actually this dish. I have it right here on my phone. So it makes that part very convenient.
Now, have you ever found a fake review?
Yes, we have started to. It's kind of interesting because it was almost a little bit of a point of, oh wow, we're big enough that we're getting fake reviews. Cool. So yeah. Yes, and then there's that. It's nice to be able to make those reviews inactive and not visible on the site because they're not truthful. They're not really honest reviews, and so the restaurateurs and the chefs are our friends. So we want to be able to give them the best opportunity possible. This is not about tearing anyone down. This is about, lifting restaurants up and giving them the best potential for success.
And how'd you find out that it was a fake review?
Oh, they're so obvious, Kyle. Like, it's
I wouldn't know. I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, that guy's really likes the pizza. Good for him.
And usually it's the only review they'll publish, so it's like really obvious then, like, oh, you have one, 10 out of 10, and you went into so much detail that it's obvious. Um, so yeah, it's not difficult to find.
Fantastic. Great. Good knowing. But I think you've answered every question I could possibly imagine.
Really
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Well, you're a good person, so it's easy to do.
Thank you.
You want to give people the web address and how they can find Taste Savant?
Yep, so you go to www.tastesavant.com, and it'll automatically put you in the city that's closest. I think we've got disconnected, but I'll keep talking. The city that is closest to you. So Kyle and Philly will actually be connected to New York because we don't have Philly yet, but it is on the radar. As far as the app, you go to the iTunes store, search Taste Savant, and it'll pop right up. We just actually put out version 2.1 yesterday. So there's a couple new features. You can search by restaurants that are open now. You can also search in other cities on the app now. So if you're in New York but you wanted to look up an LA restaurant, you can do that through the search filter. So we're excited. We keep evolving, and there's lots of new things on the horizon as well. So I think we lost Kyle, but thanks for having me, Kyle. It was a pleasure. I hope people enjoy Tastemont. And if you ever have questions, suggestions, feedback, anything, if you just want to say hi, you can always email us at admin@tastesavant.com. Right on our Facebook page, it's under Taste Savant. We have a Twitter handle for each city. Our main one is at Taste Savant. So thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
so mad. Hi again.
Hello.
Well, that was a good talking thing we did. That was fun.
Yeah, just practice, round two.
Unbelievable.
You'll see how off the cuff this is.
Yeah. So yeah, tell me about this thing you got going on. Oh, you pick out food, do you? Cool.
Yeah, sweet.